Hello and welcome to XVD Bibles. My name is Ethan. So I've gotten a number of requests to do a video on how I stitch in fly leaves on a Bible rebind. And today I'm going to show you how I go about doing that. This is a really good skill for you to get down if you're going to start rebinding seriously, because there's a number of different situations where you would want to do this. The first one would be if you are utilizing an inexpensive thin line block to rebind. Often cheaper, inexpensive thin lines, they don't have a lot of fly leaves at the beginning and at the end in order to attach your tab to. Like this one, for example, is a CSB text block from Holman, and here you see this was the liner right here attached to the cover. So there's not a bunch of fly leaves between here and the cover, and here at the end you just have like one sheet of maps. So in this situation, I would definitely want to stitch in at least one pair of fly leaves. Or if you're doing a rebind for a customer and they send you a block that is in disrepair, you might need to restitch some of the actual scripture signatures, or replace their fly leaves entirely. So there's a number of instances where this skill is really handy, and I've done it on a number of Bibles, and I'm confident enough to show you how to do it. So this is just my method. I'm sure there's a lot of good methods out there for how to do this, but I know this way works pretty well. And yeah, that's what I'll be showing you today. So this is the block we'll be working with. And I'm going to try to explain this and demonstrate this as best I can. You'll have to be patient with me because this is really difficult to film, because there's a lot of like small things going on, like where my needle is going, where my thread is going, etc. So if you would just be patient with me, I would greatly appreciate it. So the first thing you'll need to start doing this is paper. So this is a super big sketchbook that I got from, I think it was Hobby Lobby, a local craft store. And you'll need something like this. I got an extra large one just so that I could use this size of paper on really any Bible that I would ever need to rebind. But if you're just doing one project like this, I would recommend getting something smaller and more inexpensive. But I went big just so that I could use this for all different types of sizes of Bibles. The one thing that you need to be aware of is it needs to be a Smith sewn sketchbook. And the poundage of this paper is about 70 pounds. You can see here, I've already started using it and taking signatures out of it, but you need the paper to have some structure to it, because it's going to be what you attach your tabs to. So I'm not going to go and change around my camera mount to show a higher angle of this, but I'm just going to take out. First, I'm going to take out this first page here, and then I'm going to take out a single. Actually, what I need to do is find where here we go. Find where the center of the signature is. So find where the threads of your signature is in your sketchbook, and then you are going to just cut the threads. So. So I cut this first paper here on accident, so I'm not going to want to use this on a Bible, so I'm going to throw this first page away. So this will be what we actually stitch into our Bible here. So obviously it's extra large and we're going to have to cut it down, but this will work well for us. So. So I'm not going to show you how to do both sides, just one, because it's really the same on both sides. So I'm starting out with a really clean block. That's going to be one thing that you're going to need to do. So you need to have all of the stitching for your signatures really visible here, and because that's how we're gonna. So what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch in kind of an anchor thread. We're going to use 2 pieces of thread. One is going to be an anchor thread that's permanently attached to the existing Bible block, and then we're going to be stitching this page into and kind of looping it around that anchor thread as we go. That's how I do it, at least. So because there's this little tab here, I'm going to utilize this tab by actually gluing this page to it. So one thing that you're going to have to be aware of when you start doing this a lot is that there's an issue that you'll see. You might have issues when you start doing this a lot where your stitched in signature or your fly leaves kind of pull away from your block, kind of like this. And I'm kind of exaggerating it, but that's kind of what you'll see. And you want to try to avoid that as best you can by stitching, as tight as you possibly can without, tearing your paper. And also, by utilizing this tab here, I'm gonna first glue this in before I stitch it to hopefully prevent that from happening. So, but the first thing I'm gonna do is do that anchor stitch. So for stitching in signatures, I just use some white thread. It's thicker than like really traditional thread you'll find, and I can put a link for some good thread in the description. But you really don't need it to be that strong. Like you don't need thread as thick as what you would stitch leather with. So, all right, wait, where'd my needle go? Lost it. Oh, here it is. Alrighty. So for your anchor thread, you only need about twice the width of your block for this. You don't need that much. Actually, let's do about 3 times the width of our block, because I like having a little extra. So when you do this, the stitching of these signatures, doing your anchor thread, there's depending on the block that you're working with, there's kind of a sweet spot with how much you should be pulling on your thread. If your block is really used, and that thread is on the weaker side, then you're going to want to be very careful. I have been repairing a Bible before and have broken one of the signature threads in between. It was actually between the first and the second signature, and I had to restitch those signatures by hand. So definitely be aware of what you're doing. This type of technique, doing this, is definitely more of like a novice into like kind of an advanced skill. So if you're just starting out rebinding, and you're not sure of how to do this, the best way to do it is to just try it on a personal Bible and, see how it goes. So what I just did was I looked at my block to find where the first signature is, which is right here. So I put my needle in between the first and the second signature. And obviously without reinforcement, your block is going to be very floppy. So when I do this, I put a little note card in here so I can quickly access this. So this is how to do the anchor thread. So what you're doing here, trying to get a really close up of this. So you can kind of think of these perpendicular lines here as these are, knots, signature knots, essentially. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be starting this thread by tying it around this little knot here, by essentially poking my thread through the block to the actual inside of the Bible. So if you can see here, these little marks right here, that's where your signature is actually tied together. So I'm going to be poking my needle through here and through here, and essentially tying my anchor thread around this. So that's what I'm doing here. So actually, I was off by one page. All right, so just stuck my needle through, you can see there. All right, that's what we want. So I'm gonna put my needle in here and then go down on the other side of that signature. Other side of that signature knot, I guess you could call it. Tying point maybe is another word for it. And now here I'm just going to tie this off. So I went in, was tying that tight with my teeth. So I didn't start on the first signature or this first, column of threads. I started on the second. So now I'm going to go to my first little column here and do my first loop. So the trick with this I've found is you want to be poking your needle through the signature and then looping it over these little signature ties here, looping it over and then going back through. And you want your you want loops of thread to be running in between these. You want your string to be, your anchor string to be running between these knots here all the way down. So then what we're going to do when I actually go to stitch in the fly leaf is I'm going to be attaching the thread of my the thread of my fly leaf to my anchor thread. So I'm going to pull this through and then poke it right on the other side of that bundle here. So this process is the part where you want to be really careful about not over tightening your thread, because you could actually break your thread. So this is what we want right here. See, if you see here, there's this anchor thread running from here to here. That's what we want. But we want that obviously all the way down our block. So I'm going to continue on, poking my thread through, creating our anchor thread. So I've done this on a number of Bibles at this point, and I found that doing this anchor thread method and looping my anchor thread through this way really helps have a consistent anchor point for my fly leaves to attach to. Because you don't want them to be too loose. That's not what you want. Because if they're too loose, you're going to have an issue with your fly leaf signature. You're going to have issue with your fly leaf signature pulling away from your block. So, and I'm always going, when I'm doing this, I always pass over these, put my thread into the far side, go over, and then put it on the other side of the signature string that's running in the block, and then I pull it over. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm not going in on the closer side of this signature column. I'm going over it initially, going through, pulling it through here, and then going to the next one. Hopefully that makes sense. I found that overshooting it and then doubling back enables this anchor thread to be a lot more tight. Because as I'm pulling it, you can see here this anchor thread is getting really tight and kind of locking into place. It's kind of creating like slip knots on each of the little columns, signature columns. So I'm pulling it kind of straight out like so, pulling it like this, and then pulling it forward really tightens that anchor thread down really well. And you won't see all of this when your block is sufficiently reinforced. That might be a question that you might be saying, why is he destroying this block? You're not going to see all of this, because with proper block reinforcement, your block is not going to be open this much. So I'm kind of pulling it like this, tightening it a good amount, and then pulling it this way. And that keeps your anchor thread nice and tight. And you want to go as close to that signature tie point as you can, but obviously you want to, did I? Okay. All right, last one here. So I've played around with how to complete, how to complete this anchor thread here, and I found that the best way is to just loop it over on, into the same hole again, like so. And that double loop like really keeps the tension of the whole anchor thread here. And then I'll go like one signature back, and then loop it over here, and just tighten it down and tie it off. So obviously all of these knots that I'm working with here are going to be covered with glue and reinforcement, when I go to complete my block before casing. So let's do a couple more knots here. There we go. Nice anchor thread. So I'm going to do this in the next part in a part 2. The next part will be, I will be gluing my flyleaf onto this flap, obviously letting that dry, and then stitching my signature, my flyleaf signature in. Yep, so that'll be part 2. Thank you for watching. My name is Ethan from XVD Bibles.